Imagine doing something kind, thinking it's just another ordinary day, only to lose your job because of it. That's exactly what happened to this young waitress. She had no idea that a simple act of compassion toward a wealthy stranger would turn her life upside down. Fired without warning, left wondering how she would make ends meet, her world seemed to fall apart in an instant. But just when it felt like things couldn't get worse, something unexpected happened that changed everything. Little did she know, that same stranger had one last surprise waiting for her, and it was bigger than anything she could have imagined. Stay with me, because this story is about to take a turn you won't see coming. The waitress, named Tasha, had always been a hard worker. She worked long hours at a local diner, serving breakfast to businessmen, families, and even celebrities. But she never expected the day to play out the way it did. It started like any other shift, filled with the usual rush of customers. But when a well-dressed man, who appeared to be a millionaire, sat at one of her tables, something changed. He seemed distant, absorbed in his thoughts, until she noticed something in his demeanor that made her approach. He was struggling with his coffee, clearly having a bad day. Without thinking, Tasha offered him a kind word just to make him feel heard. That small gesture led to a conversation that lasted over an hour. He thanked her for the kindness, but little did she know, her decision to help him would soon set off a chain of events that would completely alter her life. The next day, Tasha arrived at work with a feeling of unease, something she couldn't quite place. The diner was busier than usual, and as she went about her routine, her manager, a stern woman named Linda, called her into the back office. Tasha's heart skipped a beat. She'd never been summoned like this before, and something told her it wasn't good news. Linda's face was stone cold when she broke the news. "We have to let you go," she said bluntly. "You broke company policy by engaging with a customer for too long." Tasha was stunned. She tried to explain how the man had seemed upset and needed someone to talk to, but Linda wasn't having it. "It's not about what you did. It's about keeping things professional." Her mind raced, unable to comprehend why something as simple as a kind gesture had led to this. Was this really about policy, or was there something more? As she left the diner, defeated, Tasha couldn't shake the thought of that man, the one who had been so thankful for her kindness. Could he have had something to do with her sudden firing? She couldn't help but feel like there was a bigger picture she wasn't seeing. What had she missed? That night, as she walked home, she saw an envelope tucked under her door. Inside, there was a note with just one sentence. "Meet me tomorrow. It's important." The handwriting was familiar. Was this the same man from the diner? Or was it someone else entirely? The next morning, Tasha couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to change, but she had no idea how. She nervously made her way to the address written on the note. It was a small cafe tucked away in a quiet part of town, a place she'd never been before. She pushed the door open, her heart racing, and there he was, sitting in the back corner, just as she had remembered him. The millionaire from the diner. His eyes met hers, and for a moment he didn't speak, just motioned for her to sit down. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice low but sincere. "I'm sure you're wondering why I called you here." Tasha barely nodded, too stunned to speak. But he continued, telling her that he had been watching her, seeing how hard she worked, and he'd heard the news about her firing. It turned out that his company had been looking for someone with her exact skills. He was offering her a job, but there was a catch. The offer came with a stipulation that left her speechless. To work for him, she would have to leave everything behind, her old life, her friends, and everything she had ever known. She felt the weight of the decision hanging over her, unsure if she could trust him. Was this too good to be true? Or was there something else he wasn't telling her? The uncertainty gnawed at her as she sat there, unsure whether she was making the right choice. "It's real," he said, "but it's not just any job. You'll be leading a team working on an innovative project that could change everything, if you're ready for it." Just when Tasha thought she had a handle on everything, the final twist hit her. Linda, who had been watching the entire exchange, suddenly spoke up. "I wasn't part of the plan to deceive you, Tasha," she said, her voice softer than before. "I was supposed to stop you from getting too close to him, to protect the project from outsiders, but I made a mistake. I should have been on your side." Tasha stood there, unsure of what to believe. Her mind buzzed with questions and confusion. She had been tested, manipulated, and betrayed, but now she was given a chance to rise. Could she trust the man who had orchestrated it all, or was this just another game? The weight of the decision pressed on her chest, and she realized that the biggest choice was yet to come. Would she walk away from everything she knew, or take a leap into the unknown? The room held its breath, waiting for her answer. Tasha took a deep breath, her heart racing as she looked from the millionaire to Linda. For a moment, it all seemed too overwhelming, too much to process. But something inside her clicked. She realized this was more than a test of her skills or loyalty. It was a test of her own strength and resilience. She wasn't just being handed an opportunity. She had earned it every step of the way. "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady and sure. "I'll take the job." The millionaire smiled, a sense of relief washing over him. Linda, too, seemed to breathe easier, nodding in approval. Tasha knew her life was about to change, but she was no longer scared. This was her chance to prove herself, not just to them, but to herself. As she walked out of the cafe, she couldn't help but smile. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, she felt ready to face whatever came next. The shock of her life had led her to the greatest opportunity yet. As Tasha sat frozen, weighing his offer, the door to the cafe swung open, and in walked someone she never expected to see, Linda, her former manager. The sight of her made Tasha's stomach drop. What was she doing here? The tension in the room thickened. Linda's eyes met hers with a mixture of discomfort and something else. Was it guilt? She hesitated for a moment before walking toward their table. The millionaire's calm expression faltered for a second, and Tasha could sense something was off. "I didn't expect you to be here, Linda," the millionaire said, his voice tight. Linda didn't respond immediately, but Tasha could see her fidgeting with a small envelope in her hand. She handed it to the millionaire without saying a word. Tasha felt a rush of confusion. Why was Linda involved in this? Why was she here, after firing her yesterday? Her mind raced as she looked between the two, trying to piece everything together. Linda's betrayal stung more than the loss of her job, but the puzzle wasn't complete yet. The millionaire opened the envelope, revealing a document that looked official, like a contract. He placed it on the table, pushing it toward Tasha. "We need to talk about your future," he said, his tone shifting. "But there are some truths you need to hear first." What was this man hiding? Tasha's heart hammered in her chest as the room seemed to close in around her. She didn't know what to believe anymore. The promise of a new life now felt more like a trap. Tasha's eyes darted between Linda and the millionaire, her mind swirling. She couldn't make sense of what was happening. Linda's silence spoke volumes, but it was the millionaire's next words that shook her to the core. "You were never supposed to be fired," he said, his voice steady but with an underlying tension. "It was all part of a test, Tasha." Tasha froze. "A test," she whispered, struggling to understand. He nodded. "The moment I saw your kindness at the diner, I knew I had to see if you could handle a bigger responsibility. But there were some people who thought you weren't the right fit. They wanted to make sure you had the heart for the job, but I knew better." Tasha's head spun. This whole time, she thought she'd lost everything because of a mistake, only to find out it was all orchestrated. Linda, her former manager, was part of the plan. She had played her part, acting as the villain to push Tasha into making a choice. "And the job offer?" Tasha asked, her voice cracking.